All eyes are on Donald Trump, who'll deliver his address at the high-level week of the UN General Assembly amid a growing trend of Palestinian statehood recognitions.
Moldovan authorities say they detained 74 people in 250 raids over an alleged Moscow-backed plot to spark unrest before Sunday's election. The Trump administration says Oracle will take over TikTok's algorithm for US users in a bid to avoid a nationwide ban.
As the high-level week of the UN General Assembly is about to start, the number of countries recognizing Palestine as a state continues to grow. At a conference on Monday held at the UN headquarters, France became the latest country to add to the growing trend of recognitions. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas addressed the conference brought forward by France and Saudi Arabia and thanked Paris for joining what he called a historic move.
President Emmanuel Macron announced France's recognition of Palestinian statehood at the UN here in New York, receiving long applause during a conference dedicated to the two-state solution. But he also reaffirmed France's friendship with Israel, which, however, has always opposed the two-state solution. France joins the UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal, with Malta, Belgium, Luxembourg, Andorra and San Marino expected to follow soon. These moves could bring the number of UN members recognizing Palestine to nearly 160, making one of the largest waves of recognition in years and potentially strengthening momentum for the two-state solution. On Tuesday, huge crowds here at the UN headquarters with US President Donald Trump taking the stage. Eleonora Vasquez, Euronews, New York.
It's the largest protest ever organized by Italy's trade unions held in support of civilians in Gaza and the international humanitarian mission, the Global Summit Flotilla, which is attempting to deliver aid to war-torn Gaza. Strikes were called last week and are expected to disrupt both the private and public sectors. Maritime transport, logistics, education are all expected to be affected by the general strike. When it comes to the railway network, the strike is due to continue until late on Monday, with local transport being affected in several cities. This is one of the main protests that is being held here in Rome, where over 100,000 people have joined the rally, mainly students, trade unions and pro-Palestine groups. Now, they are demanding that the Italian government cut diplomatic ties with Israel, impose sanctions, and that Italy's Prime Minister take a firm stance against Israel's military operation in Gaza. And Italy's opposition party is also calling for the recognition of the state of Palestine. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Moldovan authorities say they detained 74 people in 250 raids over an alleged Moscow-backed plot to spark unrest before Sunday's elections. Prosecutors say the plot was coordinated from Russia through criminal groups.
Azi, cu toată seriozitatea, vă spun că suveranitatea, independența, integritatea și viitorul nostru european sunt în pericol. Kremlinul aruncă cu sute de milioane de euro pentru a cumpăra sute de mii de voturi pe ambele maluri ale Nistrului, dar și în afara țării. Oamenii sunt intoxicați zilnic cu zeci de minciuni. Sute de persoane sunt plătite pentru ca să provoace dezordini, violență și să sperie lumea.
Sunday's vote is seen as a crucial test to whether Moldova stays on its pro-European path or shifts closer to Russia. The country has already experienced disinformation campaigns aimed at discrediting Maia Sandu's pro-European government. One campaign, dubbed Matryoshka, has ramped up efforts to spread propaganda in the country, including spreading dozens of fabricated stories. Officials warn the Kremlin is behind such attacks. Russia says it will adhere to nuclear arms limits for one more year after the last remaining deal with the United States expires in February. Russia's President Vladimir Putin told members of his Security Council that Moscow would expect the US to follow Russia's example and stick to the treaty's limits. The New START deal, first signed in 2010 by then-Presidents Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev, limits each country to no more than 1,550 deployed nuclear warheads and 700 deployed missiles and bombers. On-site inspections under the deal have been dormant since 2020. In February 2023, Putin suspended Moscow's participation in the treaty, but stopped short of withdrawing from the pact altogether. Together, the US and Russia hold 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. The future of the New START treaty has taken on increased importance at a time when Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has pushed the two countries closer to direct confrontation.
PSG forward Ousmane Dembélé beat out Barcelona's teenage sensation Lamine Yamal to clinch the 2025 Ballon d'Or award. Dembélé won one of football's most coveted prizes in a ceremony in Paris on Monday, capping a remarkable 2024-25 season where he delivered 35 goals and 16 assists across 53 appearances. The French international led his team to a domestic treble, in addition to their very first Champions League title in May. On the women's side, Aitana Bonmati made history, becoming the first woman to win 3 consecutive Ballon d'Ors. Bonmati now sits alongside Michel Platini and Lionel Messi, who are the only 3 players to achieve this feat.
The Trump administration says Oracle will take over TikTok's algorithm for US users in a bid to avoid a nationwide ban. A senior official said the deal would give the US tech giant a copy of the algorithm now owned by China's ByteDance to ease US fears over potential manipulation of content.
Good afternoon, everyone. TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China.
Before he left office, former President Joe Biden signed legislation requiring ByteDance to sell TikTok's US operations or face a steep ban. Donald Trump has repeatedly extended the deadline as negotiations continued over the app's future. Over the weekend, he name-checked Oracle CEO Larry Ellison and some of his allies and billionaires such as Rupert Murdoch and Michael Dell as being part of the deal.
Uzbekistan has signed a landmark aviation deal with Boeing during President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's visit to New York. The agreement, worth almost 7 billion euros, has drawn praise from US President. Donald Trump described the contract as a great deal. He noted that Uzbekistan Airways would acquire 22 of Boeing's 787 Dreamliners. A purchase, he said, would create over 35,000 jobs in the United States. President Mirziyoyev is a man of his word, and we will continue to work together on many more items, Trump declared in his post. According to an official announcement by Uzbekistan Airways, a firm contract was signed with Boeing for the purchase of 14 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners, with an additional 8 aircraft as options. Deliveries will begin in 2031. During his visit, President Mirziyoyev met with Brandon Nelson, president of Boeing Global. Both sides emphasized the importance of swiftly implementing the contract and reaffirmed nearly 3 decades of partnership. Mirziyoyev also hosted a high-level roundtable with American business leaders, investment funds, and financial institutions. After the meeting, at least 10 bilateral agreements were signed in the fields of transportation, financial cooperation, mining, and new technologies.
U.S. President Donald Trump is seeking to impose his agenda and political program on Europeans. This is what a report published by the European Council on Foreign Relations concluded on Tuesday. Trade tensions, the military defense of the old continent, and the White House's support for far-right groups are all factors that are prompting EU leaders to react rather than set their own agenda. To this analyst, this is an admission of weakness on the 27-member bloc's part.
I think that, of course, it's European leaders, governments, institutions who have given plenty of room to be humiliated, whether it concerns the tariff war with the US or the NATO summit and the question of boosting spending on defense, or the way in which European leaders are treated in peace negotiations concerning Ukraine, where they basically need to knock on the door so that anyone listens to them. Otherwise, they are not in the room.
European sentiment remains strong despite the political blows dealt by Trump. According to the latest data, public confidence in the EU is at its highest level since 2007, and expectations seem to have also evolved.
In many places where people used to consider EU mostly as an economic being, as a trading bloc, as a market, they started realizing that Europe has an important role in terms of geopolitics, relations with other global powers, but also in terms of a defense of democratic values that are in danger both externally and internally in Europe.
According to the report's author, Trump has several relays in Europe. The leaders of Hungary, Italy, and Slovakia have made no secret that they're ideologically, and maybe even personally, aligned with the 47th U.S. president.